I just hate it here. That doesn't sound nice. Why would I hate it here? Yeah, so it's just... So you sound so sour saying the following. I mean, we have... I mean, it really is. I don't mind chubby real bimbo classes. But it's the middle-aged who just bring their dogs and everything. It's like, hey, I'm meeting up with my dog walking partner, other middle-aged, almost always women, and it's like they've just seen a dog for the first time. I mean, it's clearly really infantilized displacement activity. They don't care about anything. They don't care that the national park, National Trust region down there is polluted, etc., etc. Right, that's so boring to go on about this stuff. Why have I even turned this on? It's funny. So, don't know why. Doing a bit of jotting yesterday. Right, oh, I've hardly got any battery on this computer, this phone. Right, doing a bit of jotting yesterday, and for some reason, I carried on all night. I think it's like half the night I wasn't sleeping. But what the whole thing is about, it's not worth saying anything. I mean, I was actually thinking, I was actually kind of like mentally writing paragraphs to add to recent material, to make a point. I mean, what's the point? What's the point? The reality is that from the age of 15, well, all my life actually, 35 to about 35. But even based in London and bobbing around other, not cities, small towns, my life was 2/3 of the time going off to quite out of the way places. But all the women I knew, nobody wore makeup. I never once had the smell of makeup on me. Never once had to, and I make sure I don't smell of fag, assuming I've got the time to clean before I think I didn't have time when I first met the Serb. I don't know. It just came out of the blue. Anyway, yeah, it's like I really can't stand the smell of makeup. But nobody is like, you just didn't meet anybody who wore makeup. Just ordinary, humblish sort of, either the workers or even graduates. Just nobody wore makeup. And the very few that did, the women spoke of them, not meaning to be mean, but it's like, it's one of the dolly birds who makes herself up. But this is one of the major things that is causing the toilet, the drains of a house in the 1980s did not had you had on the shelf in a house, in the bathroom, you had hardly any products. Now there's 20, 30, 40 products. Probably more. The average is more. And even Phoebe Waller-Bridge in in Fleabag actually did have a little 15-second scene riffing upon this, but you can't even have that conversation. I want to meet a woman my own age who, rather than comes here to a place which is on the edge of a natural place, will have that conversation. But no, it's all about their dogs, because that means they don't actually have to talk about anything real or in any way be a useful elder in society. And one must always, of course, in this day and age, put balance in. Yes, it's become men doing the same as well. Men can't go anywhere without chemical deodorant and then various other chemicals that they must use now. No men use chemicals at all. None. You had a few snotty teens who had hair gel, and that was it. But anyway, why have I turned this on? Yeah, simple life. I've got to get out of here, get northwest now. But planning the day, warm this evening, having a bath this evening, and then it goes cooler for 4 or 5 days. Get up, charge, and today will be in a very unusual, not nice, not feeling good day. Still a bit of bug, but unusually, no, like 1 in 100 nights, nothing's on my mind ever. Because my mind was reaching away, kind of jotting things almost at night. That if there's one purpose to having lived, in my own case, just speak things that usefully should be said. Right. But then I know that's an absurdist thing, because nobody wants to have proper discussions. It's just it's nothing new. That's why I'm not bitter. 30 years ago, it was said on intelligent-ish media then, which it was, we're dumbing down. And we've dumbed down to this ultimately infantilized point where blah, blah, blah. And when you come across the occasional Sunday afternoon, the Christopher Douglas play doing Tristram Shandy, you sort of feel a little bit of solidarity. Because he's quite a good writer, and he had his own daughter within his series that he'd written, Ed Reardon. His own daughter character, I forget her name, was one of the Ultra Mermaids, and he was taking the piss out of this character so brilliantly within Ed Reardon. But it's like you hear just one voice, and it's like it actually hurts when you think about it. But nobody can have this discussion, and you get sidetracked, and people make assumptions also. I mean, the main problem I have with mermaids, I'm going to put up a talk with a talk. It's just it's not even interesting really, but I'm going to put audio talk up, and people will assume, well, that woman, I've had about 200 talks with her over the last 4 years. I met her more or less 4 years ago. She's the first new person I met in the pandemic. Now, 10 of them end up with her slamming the phone down, but I've changed her. I've taken her forward. But the real job, I mean, the big funny one was 2.5 years ago, where she had to, for her own good, here, a reckoning. Just such terrible people pleasing and fraudery. Anyway, so I went through 1.5 years of just floating various little schemes that she could. Scheme is like a big word for. Like, she'd moved into an area where I lived, and she hardly knew anybody there, inherited money, but a reasonably humble woman, in some ways. And it's like, okay, because she had inherited a large household, which I helped her at great length sorting out to some extent, pretty much for no money. Yeah. She bunged me a 20 quid once, or maybe 30. Doesn't matter. It's like, no, the amount of time I put into her. But here's the point. Giving a little, like, hey, well, these books, I can take your books that you don't want anymore, that you've inherited, that are not for you. I can give some of them to local families in the pandemic, and blah blah blah. Yeah, I'll get them out. And it never happens. Anyway, so she gets a bit of a list of, after a year and a half. I've listened to it in front of her friend. I've listened to this. But you see, and these are all things for her benefit. But the real one, it's like after realizing somebody is just useless, nevertheless, there's one small mutual benefit, community thing. You see, I might talk about the females who've come along and utterly destroyed environmentalism, but I put in huge effort to include them in a really important thing, because environmentalism 10 years, 15 years ago, if you go into rural, quite backward areas, and it shouldn't be this way, but mainly men. So that's why you want more women, but there's a really important reason why you want more women. And I literally spent 2 or 3 years doing the following, which is some of the men who are the more proactive environmental operators they live alone. They're very, very quite death culty deep down, very, very prescriptive, and really terribly arrogant. Quite horrible, actually. And I've known several really well. They've been my partial allies. The partial is the important bit. But because they live alone so long, they go warped, they go wonky. So, when I first met with someone little under my wing 10 years ago, or 9, like the best of all, I knew straight away he was the best of all. He had great eco-science, but he hadn't had a woman in his life for probably 30 years, definitely 15 or 20. So it's like I was looking for women greenies. Now this man was ultra green. Could you help me? Could you help socialize him a bit? Could we? And this man had some money and was okay, definitely safe. It's quite obvious when you met him. A small Cambridge educated man. So I would scour the green women, or the ones who pretended to be, and say, do you know what the most important thing you could do for the cause is? I'll help you. I'll make it happen. And he wants it to happen. But if I can just sort of ease you, or invite you for tea, take him out for a walk, if you could ease you, or maybe even, God forbid, find this man a girlfriend. He needs a woman, a bit like you, just around a bit as a friend to re-socialize him, because they actually become really, really kind of atomized and angsty. They pretend otherwise. So, yeah, the woman, Susie, it's like 3 years ago. Okay, it's turned out that you actually lie about everything, but you're quite interested in my kind of friend. You know he's got £500,000 of equity. You'll never touch it, but you relate to him because he owns property, which in his case he actually built that property himself with his own hands. So it's like, well, just help me with this one thing. And a Jehovah's Witness couple who were okay, who didn't talk about religion, I asked them to do the same thing 3 or 4 years ago. And they said they would, because the man was very interested. He was an engineer. The JW man's an engineer. And my friend is a scientific engineer, physicist really, and ultra good on the environment. And my JW friend man, he wanted to get much more into in eco-positive engineering solutions, and he was a welder and metal fabricator, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, but the women, you need the women. That's what you need the women for. Just, I'll come. We'll find somebody else. Just spend a little time with this chap. He's all right. He lives in a reasonably isolated place, and he's got a lovely garden. He's obsessed with gardening. You know. So I actually, over the course of 2 or 3 years, I got 3 or 4 women down there. One he even wanted to employ gently because she was a real expert gardener. Like, just try and spend a bit of time with him. That's the best thing you can do for the cause. And they'd be like, yeah. And then none of them would, and there was nothing wrong with my friend whatsoever. He actually would go and speak to the government sometimes. The government would call him into Whitehall to speak on environmental matters, or liaise, consult. Yeah, they're like, yeah. And then never would anything follow through. Ever. So I've been a doer. I mean, in fact, that was the number one most not enjoyable at all big task for the cause that I took it upon myself as of about 7 years ago. I spent over about 5 years, like, trying to just, and I even got a mermaid to come and live with him from America. She was that may have been a slight mistake. She's a COVID obsessive, and after America went fascist, she was living on the East Coast, working in an ashram, she said, but a 65-year-old woman, and it seemed okay, but forget about her, because she's a complication. And it didn't go sour or anything. Yeah, so like for 5 or 6 years, that's like, I put so much time and effort into that, but here's the point, including the lady I was speaking with a few days ago, she won't even remember. Even 2 years ago, I was still nudging her. You and your friend. Yeah, she's got a best friend she'd come up with. This is in the middle of nowhere almost. You and your friend. This man is cosmopolitan. This man is, grown up. You two spend a bit of time around him. He'll give you his vegetables. Yeah, he grows the most amazing fruit and vegetables. You'll get free vegetables from him. The most amazing organic. His family were 3 generations of fruit growers. Although this man was sophisticated and went to Cambridge University. And she won't even remember that over a year I was just slightly nudging. If you want to help the cause, plus you'll get mutual benefit, plus you can spend time at his, plus you're going to learn great stuff from him. Just befriend. And she only lived about 3 miles from him. I mean, she went twice, and then it never went anywhere. Never invited him back to hers for dinner, blah, blah, blah. You are dealing with total butterflies. So shut up, me. Drugs. Yeah, so there'll be sour people who think, God, no. You see, I'm the exact opposite of a complainer. I kept a diary and chronicle, partly for my own protection, you see, because there you go. You see, that's what you need your helpmeet for, because when I started that with this man, David, I did have somebody I could trust in my life. Yes, so nudging people I didn't always know incredibly well, but having to really figure, can I trust this woman, Susie? I had to really grill her and make jokes. I don't know if you're a money launderer. I would say that many a time, because she turned up 4 years ago saying she had money. I don't know you're not. You've got the act. You say you're a green, which she isn't at all. But, I don't mind that fakery. But it's that getting some females for their own benefit to spend time with an enjoyable enough man, just to befriend, to socialize, to communalize, etc., etc. I put so much into that, but you don't know. And if it's, these women, when they come up, they pretend otherwise, but it's like, This is a very special house that this man's built. His gardens are extraordinary. Has he got a mortgage, or does he own the deed? Free of mortgage. Of course they're going to think like that. So, to protect myself, I would always have conversations with them. You know, this is a man who needs friends and has done good work in society. Just help him keep going a bit longer, not actually doing anything. The help is spending time with him and rehumanizing him a little bit. But I'd always feed it in. But I keep my eyes open because he may just be having one or two memory issues. I've been working with him and he does lose his tape measure a lot. If ever a penny goes out of his house into your house, I will know, and there may be legal implications. Now, I would feed that in so subtly and gently and usually jokingly, and I would record myself saying that for my protection, to make it crystal clear, because even him, somewhere down the road, you might hear, oh, you were coercing this person into my life, and she ended up ripping me off for, we ended up friends and had a little bit of a financial entanglement, and then she ran off with, well, he would. He was just obsessed with every penny. Anyway, yeah. It's a really good chronicle. I actually care not to be thought of as sour and complainer. I had spent, in fact, it's longer than that. I just put things in terms of the number. I've spent about 400 hours over 5 years on half a dozen, okay, not in a mess or seemingly middle-classish women who say that they're really green, introducing them into that situation, taking all the time in the world to communicate to them. He's great, his eco knowledge is the best, but he's just going a bit fractious, a little bit. He's not that good with people. He's got out of practice. That's why he needs people around, and he does agree with this. Okay, so if you could just be part of that, and that's going to be the best thing for the cause. I spent about, in fact, over 400 hours on that over 4 or 5 years, and not one ever followed through. Or having said, yes, I'm going to spend time at his garden in the summer, eating the most amazing fruit, just help him do a little bit of digging here and there, just minor stuff. Getting back to me saying, oh, do you know what? I've changed my mind. When I got there, she went there a couple of days. Carolyn, the ultimate fucking bohemian mermaid, whatever you want to call her. She even had me fooled. Anyway, over and out. But you see, I don't want to be thought to be sour because I put so much, none of it for a penny. Never a penny. This guy, this one of various examples, but he was so mean, you never even got a cup of coffee out of him when you went round to his. Anyway, there we go. Over and out.